Hello everyone, welcome back to Let's Play Shadow of the Colossus. This is Space Oyster. Last time we defeated the first Colossus after watching many cutscenes. And today we will be tackling the next two Colossi if we have enough time. I hope it doesn't take too long. Anyway, this is coming post-commentary because I have recorded this audio 3 times, and 3 times it has been a complete crap so far. I was about to call it quits with the last one because it turned out passable, but I really should hold myself to higher standards. Anyway, we're just gonna get this short cutscene here, followed by a hint from Dormant, and then we'll be able to move on to the next Colossus. From now on, most of the cutscenes after each Colossus encounter are going to be pretty short, except after numbers 4, 8, 12, and 16. Alright, so we're just gonna jump right on in there after Wander's done looking at his lady love again. Or at least I assume it's his girlfriend. Or wife. It could be his sister for all I know. It's just a woman he cares a lot about. I also forgot to show off a feature last time. This is called camera mode, I guess. It allows you to change the settings that appear visually, and you can even turn off the GUI to get a good screenshot or two. It's a really neat feature, and it pauses the game, so you can use it to either quickly pause it or get a good shot of you fighting a Colossus. I probably won't be using it that often, though. And then we're going to get another part of the tutorial here. Yeah, since they changed the function of those shrines from being save points to just healing you, they're pretty much useless now. Let's see. So Dorman's name is actually Nimrod, spelled backwards, which, in addition to being a great name to call someone who's kind of stupid, was also Noah's great-grandson, if I'm remembering all my research correctly. The Bible only talks about one person who's Nimrod, I think, but historians believe there could be multiple people who had that title. So I guess Dorman having multiple voices layered over each other could be a reference to what historians think. And then Dorman's more questionable motives, or obviously more sinister nature, could be a reflection of how Nimrod was kind of a not very nice person in the Bible. He was the guy who started building the Tower of Babel. Oh, and last time I also forgot to mention the Shadow of the Colossus release history. I was so excited to get my first part up that I forgot. But, let's see, it was initially released on the PlayStation 2 in 2005. Then it got a HD port to the PlayStation 3 alongside Ico in 2011, and then the PlayStation 4 release in 2018. And then its, I guess, sequel, The Last Guardian, came out in 2016. Gotta say, I do like Team Ico titles, except The Last Guardian. From what I've heard about it, it sounds like a not good game, so I haven't even looked into getting one, or getting it. And then the second Colossus we're about to come across is going to be teaching us the last few things we're going to need to handle Colossi, And then from here on out, they're pretty much going to be repeated mechanics with a few gimmicks thrown in to keep things fresh. But here we are. This is Colossus number 2. His official-ish name is Quadratus, but I am going to call him Legos. Legos here, as the second half of a tutorial, is basically a, I think he's actually the slowest Colossus. Like, no one's gonna move slower than him. But he was probably asleep in that cave. As you can see, he's got 3 weak points. One on the top of his head, the one on the side there, that's only there in hard mode. And the last one on his butt. Well, above his butt. Right about where a tail would be. Either way, Tina Belcher would like that spot. Maybe. I don't know. She's just obsessed with butts. Anyway, we just gotta make sure we get right in front of him. Very scary place to be, but it's kind of necessary because you'll notice when he lifts his feet up to stomp, there are glowing spots on them. Those are another weak spot, similar to Asterios' ankle. The one on Asterios' ankle. And you have to hit them to get him to recoil and knock him over so you can climb him. And that is the second half of the tutorial that Asterios couldn't teach us, that you can shoot the Colossi to make progress. And Wander here is struggling to get up for some odd reason. I think I just needed to move a bit more over, or maybe I should have tried to climb on top of that instead of trying to grab onto the ledge and then pull up. Either way, we're just gonna have to start from scratch again. Not too big a deal. And you'll notice aggro is here for this encounter, but she is not necessary. You do not have to be on your horse for this at all. Anyway, he's back down again. We're gonna get climbing. This time I put the sword away. I was hoping that it would make it easier for Wander to climb. I personally never really noticed if it actually does that. When I played this game too often on PlayStation 2, I never put the sword away when I was climbing. So I don't know if that's actually a thing where it's easier for him to climb with or without it. I mean, I did make it up, so I did make it up this time with the sword sheathed, as opposed to having it out last time where I failed. So who knows? Anyway, this is the hard mode exclusive weak spot, and it's pretty much just a detour on the way to his more prominent weak spots. On easy mode and normal mode, you can just skip right past this. One more stab, I think, and then we're good to go. Yeah, just the one stab. Yeah. And since that blood stuff that's gushing out of him, I don't think it comes out of any other spot. Like if I were to stab him right here, I don't think it would gush out like that. So, maybe the Colossi just have all of their life juices stored in these weak spots here. Makes me wonder if other things could get them to bleed, or if it's just this sword. I mean, you can get other swords, but they're just unlockable extras for doing the time attack mode, which is unlocked when you beat the game the first time. Some of them are quite useless, like there's one that allows you to shoot that light beam anywhere, even in dark areas, but it's only really useful when you have no idea where the Colossi are at, and since you have to defeat all of them in order to get it, it's pretty pointless. Anyway, last weak spot here, and we'll get to somewhat see its face. I'm not sure if they put this back into this version of the game, but on the PlayStation 2 and 3 versions, when a Colossus was hostile, its eyes would glow red, as we're seeing a little here on Legos. But when they weren't hostile, or were just minding their own damn business before we started poking them in the face, their eyes would be glowing a more bluish-green color. I'm not too sure if they put that back in. I've never really noticed, and I can't quite tell here. I think I'm stabbing him a bit too frequently. Either way, second Colossus Legos is down. And yeah, we got plenty of time. We can go on to the next one. And all these death animations, they're actually pre-recorded. Doesn't matter where the Colossus is when you take it down. When that cutscene plays, the game moves all of the stuff to where they want it to show up on the overworld from then onward. Then we get this cutscene again. I don't know if it plays the exact same audio every time, or if it's different. Maybe I should shut up and listen for once. And we're back here at I think it's called the Shrine of Worship, the main temple. Legos' statue will crumble this time, while two shadowy figures stand above us. There'll always be one for each Colossus we've defeated. Then Wander will stand up, we'll get a hint from Dorman, and I believe there's also going to be doves surrounding Mono. I think there's also one for each Colossus that's defeated. Sorry, I got a kitten with me. I don't know if the mic's picking up him purring, but it wouldn't surprise me either way if it did. I had the audio on the TV turned down to about 5, and my mic was still picking it up. And then after that initial cutscene plays, I'm going to call that the standard version. Aggro usually comes up the left staircase here. So I usually just run down that one to meet her halfway and get on our way more quickly. And as you can see, we'll be having to cross that same bridge we used to get to Legos last time. You should be able to see his corpse because it overlooks the arena we fought him in. But I actually show off a completely different feature here. Yeah, if you hold down the grip button and then push forward on the joystick while you're riding aggro, Wander will stand up on his horse. Oh, wait, no, you can see it. You can also pull out your bow and fire it while you're doing this. It has absolutely no gameplay benefit whatsoever. It's a lot harder to do since you have to keep the grip button held down and the triangle button to keep aggro moving forward, otherwise she slows down. It's just in there, I guess, to show that Wander really knows how to ride a horse and shoot a bow. Because otherwise he is clumsy as all get out. I didn't show you swinging a sword around, but he's very bad at it. Oh, on the way there, I guess I can mention that in development, Shadow of the Colossus was actually initially conceived as an MMO of all things, but that idea quickly got scrapped when the development team at Team Ico realized that their staff was too small and they were too inexperienced and they didn't have a big enough budget to actually pull it off. Right, I thought I saw one of the enlightenments they added into the game. I thought I saw that right here, but it was just one of these fireflies that's nesting under this rock. I mean, there could be an enlightenment above that rock. I'm not too sure. People have put together a map that shows where most of them are at, and the controller is supposed to react when I find one. But on my initial playthrough, I didn't really come across them, so either I'm just not observant, or they're off the beaten path. And then usually before when you get close to each location that a Colossus is at, you'll get a small scene like that. Basically, scenery porn. So you'll definitely know you're in the right area when you see something like that. And in the water, you'll notice Wander is a terrible swimmer, for the most part, unless you hold down the grip button. When you do that, he's going to dive under and swim faster, but it'll drain your grip gauge. Otherwise, he just flops around in the water like something that doesn't swim well. I'm good with analogies. Okay, so we're just going to keep swimming there up to this bridge sort of thing. This location always reminded me of a crumbling, like, Colosseum. I don't know exactly what it was supposed to be. But either way, the architecture in this forbidden land is always something that fascinated me, because it hints at there being a civilization here, but it's a forbidden land. So it makes me wonder if, like, they're the ones responsible for bringing Dorman into the world, and Dorman is somehow a bad thing. I guess, because Dorman can bring souls back to life, but it's a pretty he says it's a pretty hefty cost to wander. And you can see the Shrine of Worship there, but there's also a small beam of light. It's a little tough to make out, but each Colossus that we defeat shoots one of those up from their corpse, so you'll be able to see those as you're traveling to each new one the farther we progress. Anyway, here we are at Colossus number 3. His semi-official name is Gaius, but I'm going to call him the Ugly Duckling, because he has those exaggerated rock-clip things that make him look like he has a beak. Yeah, I really hope you weren't expecting all my names to be serious. He has 3 weak points on hard mode as well. The one on his belly button and the one on his forehead are there on easy and normal. I assume it's there on easy too. And in hard mode, they add the one on the back of his arm. I didn't play on easy mode, so I don't know if it's any different from normal mode. My assumption about it is just that the Colossi have less health, so it takes fewer pokes. And that it has more hints, so it can be more of a tutorial to get newer players into the game. But those are blind assumptions on a version of the game I have not played. Anyway, to get climbing on the Ugly Duckling here, you want to bait his sword swing onto this platform. Or at least that's the standard way to do it. Some players on the PlayStation 2 version, they're actually able to skip this part of the fight by jumping onto his sword and then having the momentum carry them over the bracelet to where they can start fighting him. Because otherwise he's got a bracelet on his arm that keeps you from climbing up too high. The Ugly Duckling here, he's actually considered what could be a fan favorite of the Colossi. Like most people who draw fan art, they'll usually go for this guy rather than a few of the other ones, although a lot of the Colossi are pretty cool. And he also got promoted to the cover art for the new release. It used to be the first Colossus Asterios on the cover each time. Let's see. Oh, right, and the Ugly Duckling's boss fight here actually underwent quite a few changes from what they initially planned. Initially, he was going to have a more sword-like sword instead of the club-like sword he got now. And he was going to swing it horizontally rather than vertically. And the initial idea was that you're going to have to time a jump to get onto it rather than having him embed it in the ground long enough for you to jump onto it. But I think that idea got scrapped because they couldn't work the hitboxes out. And I'm kind of glad they did, because that sounds horrible. Like the worst thing ever. Well, second worst thing. Nothing's ever going to beat customer service. And as you can see here, Wander is very easily thrown off balance. Well, that was a freebie. the Colossi can easily throw him off his balance and make it tougher for him to climb or stay put in his position just by walking around and gently moving their limbs. And if they knew that, they'd probably kick our asses. But they don't. So we're going to start on the head here, and I'm going to apologize in advance for the length of this fight because it's going to be a long one. I fall off quite a few times. Not to say that the Colossus is actually all that tough. I make a lot of weird mistakes. The Colossi themselves actually aren't too tough to fight for the most part. Like I said last time, they're more like puzzle. It's more like a puzzle platformer than an action adventure. So, as is the case with most puzzle games, when you know the solution, it's not that tricky to actually execute. It's just that Shadow of the Colossus is a bit different than your usual puzzle game because it's going to require a bit of skill each time. Because you not only have to know that you have to bait his sword attacks and then jump onto his sword, but you also have to be able to actually do it. But that's what makes video game puzzles a lot more different than most other puzzles. They'll always require a bit of skill in addition to knowing the actual solution. Which is part of the reason why The Last Guardian sounds horrible. I heard that they supposedly programmed the Chimera puppy dog thingy to not always react to your commands to try and make it realistic, and that ends up being a horrible idea because if you know the right solution, then you have to wait for him to realize it's the right solution. I can get what they were going for. They wanted you to feel like they wanted you to feel dependent upon this big creature. It was basically kind of Team Ico's what's the word I'm looking for? Signature development style. Take an idea that sounds horrible on paper and actually make it good. And it would have, I think it could have worked if Trico had been much more responsive. Like, flagged to react in specific ways, so that way the puzzles would be quicker to solve. So from the sounds of it, I actually haven't played Last Guardian, so I shouldn't be so harsh. But from the sound of it, The Last Guardian does sound like their only failed attempt in this regard. Like, Shadow of the Colossus would probably sound horrible on paper. A puzzle platformer where you have to climb around a giant monster and stab its weak spots while they flail around and try to knock you off. No, that sounds awesome on paper too. Okay, Shadow of the Colossus is probably an exception. Ico, on the other hand, is a game that sounds horrible on paper because it's a puzzle platformer spent protecting a young girl from constantly respawning monsters. And the combat in that game is complete crap. You get a stick and you can swing it around and it'll hurt the monsters. And that's it. You don't really get a lot of good ways to get around the fighting sections. But it works pretty well because there's always this sense that the girl is a part of something bigger than initially apparent. And since Ico, I assume the little boy in that game, I assume his name is Ico. Yeah, there's my second fall. Or was that the... Oh, I only fall off the Colossus twice, never mind. I think I only fall off twice. Anyway, Ico, in order to move the young girl around, he's usually going to be holding her hand. That's basically the entire concept that the game was designed around. Just a young guy and a girl holding hands. And as far as NPC escorts go, she's actually a lot smarter than most in Ico. Um, like if you're struggling with a puzzle and you aren't holding her hand, she'll wander around and point at various solutions and elements in the environment for you to help you find a solution. Oh, that was almost bad. I think the ugly duckling here can get you in one shot if he hits you with that thing. I think, but I don't know how much realism applies to this game. Because realistically, I don't think Wander should be able to climb these things. And also realistically, he probably should have been dead from the falls I've taken in this episode. There are certain falls you can take that will be a one-hit KO. So don't think that fall damage is always going to be mitigated. I can't English today either. I think that's going to be a recurring theme. But yeah, you can fall from... There is a certain threshold that if you fall from it, you're dead. But I think Gaius's arm was a point below that. Yeah. There I go, breaking my own rules again, referring to him by his semi-official name instead of the much better one I came up with. And it just went for a light stab there. If you don't charge up the stab at all, the Colossus will react to it, but they're not going to take any damage. Let's see, so I just get back up onto his shoulder here, and then I'm gonna drop down his back to get to that, the remains of, I'm going to assume was his hoop skirt. Maybe the ugly duckling's actually a girl. Also looks like he's wearing a bra. But it's kind of tough to tell because, you know, it's a giant rock monster with fur. And any sense of gender we can apply to a giant rock monster covered in fur are going to be very tough to establish, because there's really not an established gender to any of them. But I do generally refer to them as male. Ooh, excuse me. But that's just me being an, I don't know the right word for it, but I'm probably just assuming they're male because I'm a dude too. Or maybe it's a psychological thing and I find the idea of killing a bunch of female monsters uncomfortable. Not that it doesn't happen, though. I heard a lot of the wolf designs, or designs for wolf-like creatures in Final Fantasy XII, a few of them are actually noticeably female. In ways that I know nothing about. Anyway, that is the third Colossus, the ugly duckling, down. And there's always the funny... yeah, if you take out the weak spot on his stomach last, Wander will always end up unconscious because he nearly had the Colossus fall right on top of him. Anyway, that's going to be the end of the episode. Thank you all for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe if you liked what you saw, and I will see you guys next time. Spaced Oyster, signing out.